My name's Valerie. I live in Brighton, Michigan, and I live with ARVC. ARVC is arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy, and it's caused by a gene mutation that basically, your heart's a muscle. When you work out, your muscles get big. The inflammation causes your cells to come apart, and normal people have proteins that bring them back together and kind of reassemble everything in a stronger fashion that makes your heart stronger. My heart does not come back together once those heart cells separate. It is replaced by fatty scar tissue, and the scar tissue pretty much gets in the way of electrical impulses, which causes VTAC and cardiac arrest, and later in progression can just overall weaken the heart muscle to the point of heart failure. I graduated from nursing school at Eastern Michigan University in December of 2018. I had a few months to study for my state board exam. I took that in February of 2019. At this point, I still had no symptoms of any sort of heart-related condition. So I had my first symptom was in March of 2019 when I was leaving the gym and had my first significant run of ventricular tachycardia. And that was my first symptom that I made a cardiologist appointment for because I knew it was cardiac related. So I made the appointment. Never got to that appointment though. I went to Florida for a vacation with Allie and my mom the first week of May, and on my last night of vacation was May 9th, and that's when I ended up having the cardiac arrest. Me and Allie, my sister, were at a bar around 9 o'clock.
They went up the street very close, like a quarter of a mile, and they were dancing and having fun, and about 30 minutes later, Allie called me just hysterical and said Valerie collapsed. I was dancing with her.
The last thing that I remember was being like, I don't feel well, and then it's just nothing.
We were dancing and all of a sudden she just collapsed, head straight on the cement. She was lying there and I knelt down to her and I had no idea what was going on.
I was not breathing. I was down for 8 minutes before the Fort Lauderdale Fire Department are the ones that resuscitated me. It took, I think, almost a half hour to get a heartbeat back on me, but they did.
I got up there as fast as I could. By then, the ambulance was there. I couldn't find her. She was in the back of the ambulance, and the rescue worker came out and said, "We got a rhythm. We got a rhythm." And you got a rhythm? Like, what is this? You got a rhythm? Like, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She just was dying.
My mom's a nurse, so she has lots of feelings about the fact that she said no to coming out because she would have been there.
They put us in the back of the fire truck, Allie and I. And Allie grabbed my hand and she said, "We gotta pray, Mom, we gotta pray, Mom, we gotta pray." And that's where the nightmare started.
I was transferred over to the local hospital there in Fort Lauderdale. They knew how long I was down, and I don't think they were very optimistic because they did share with my family that they kind of weren't hopeful for like brain function after being down for that long without any circulation. So luckily for me, my parents really argued against that, and they ended up putting me on the hypothermia protocol where they cool everything to try to like save brain function and pretty much just like shut down your body so that their brain can like rest fully and try to like recover from that. I think after 3 days is when I started twitching my toes and kind of showing like any sign of brain function, but for 3 days my family really didn't know that I was ever going to like wake up out of the medically induced coma that I was in.
So they brought her back to a normal body temperature, and then they reduced to sedation, and there was a nurse there, and she was squeezing Val's hand and, you know, saying, "Valerie, can you hear me?" And Val's eyes, you know, she just twitched her eyes, so they knew they were getting a response, and that was the moment that we knew that she was at least alive.
I was in the hospital in Florida for, I believe it was 23 days, so just over 3 weeks. I was in the ICU for most of it, and I didn't really like truly grasp what had happened to me until like actually I was out of the hospital. I think a lot of the reason that I came out the way I did, being so intact, was probably the advocacy that my parents showed. The doctors were not hopeful that I would have a good outcome, and they did tell my parents thought the hypothermia was a waste of time, in those words. That was really hard for me to hear, because if my parents wouldn't have fought for me, I would be probably dead or just not nearly as mentally intact as I am. So I will never be able to repay them for fighting for me in that way when I wasn't able to myself. I struggled with that question exactly, why did all of that happen for me to kind of just come out okay, and I have an ICD and I have ARVC now, but I'm still me. ARVC has been challenging because it's forced me to try things that I just wouldn't really have done before. I don't really know that I would have just started teaching myself how to watercolor paint before that, because I had other things that I preferred to do, but it's caused me to kind of reach into new areas and find new hobbies and stuff that I can do. Yoga has become a really big part of my life, and it's definitely my favorite thing to be doing in my free time. I've done it for about 8 years, and then with my ARVC diagnosis, it really became the main form of exercise for me, and I found my yoga studio right after my diagnosis as well, which is very conveniently located within walking distance of me here. So I walk to class and back. It's about a half hour each way. I always feel so good when I come home after doing that. I just feel very calm and ready to go about my day and not be super anxious. Yeah, it helps a lot with my anxiety for sure. It's hard because as much as I want to say I'm living my life, I'm living ARVC's life, and that is 100% true. What Tenaya is doing has given us so much hope. Their work means my life, it means every ARVC patient's life. I remember after my first conversation with them, I went to my Facebook group and kind of just explained what I knew, and I've never seen a response from people like that of just pure hope. Just the thought that maybe in the next few years there could be something that would change so many of our lives, and all the suffering that I know everyone goes through and deals with on a daily basis could potentially we won't have to worry about I might need a heart transplant in 10 years, or I might be in heart failure by the time I'm 40. That just won't be a thought, and just to know that that's a possibility it's nothing short of a miracle. Genetic therapy obviously we're not quite there yet, but just giving people that hope that maybe it could get to that point is just it's enough for me, I feel like. Just that hope alone.